Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, I have a confession to make. I have gotten lost in nearly every city I have ever visited. I wish I were exaggerating right now, but sadly I'm not. There's quite a few reasons for this. First and foremost, I have no sense of direction. Secondly, I have a deep love-hate relationship with my GPS. And finally, if you handed me a map and sent me into a paper bag, I'd get lost because I'd probably have a map upside down. These things are not really that helpful when traveling. But I've learned that while traveling, if you get lost, there are so many things that you can actually find. You find amazing food that you wouldn't normally find, which is really important to me because I love food. You manage to find new places outside of normal tourist traps, like here in Monterey, we have Cannery Row and Fisherman's Wharf. And you also can find some really interesting people that you wouldn't have met in your normal travels had you known where you were going. When I was in my junior year of college at CSU Monterey Bay, I actually studied abroad in Wales. And during that year, I managed to get a lot of traveling in. And I managed to get lost a lot. So I'd like to share with you 3 experiences from that year and why, instead of kind of being self-pity and just being like, oh, I got lost, I loved it. The first one was when I visited Barcelona. I visited Barcelona with a friend of mine, and that was my favorite because of the food. When we got there, we knew that churros and chocolate were what Barcelona was known for. So we went to the front desk person who was working at our hostel and asked, where can we get this? He sent us someplace and they were okay. It definitely wasn't what I expected. It didn't quite live up to the hype. But afterwards, I worked at a hotel the following year, and what I've realized, and this is a little tip inside the hospitality industry for those of you who have not had the privilege of working in it, he lied to me. I got that question nearly every day I worked. Where's the best food in town? What's your favorite restaurant? And I lied. If people were nice to me, I'd probably send them to a nice restaurant, but I never sent anybody to my favorite restaurant. I didn't want it overrun with tourists, and if they were mean to me, that was different. Those people got the overpriced restaurants with bad service and horrible food. Moving on from that, as I said, I didn't know that when I was in Barcelona. So I decided instead I was going to try and find someplace better for tapas, which Spain is also known for. We found a place. It was very busy, so we thought it would be good. And it was disgusting. I'm not quite clear what I ate that day, but I hope to God that I never eat it again. Really, really horrible. So at that point, we'd kind of given up on finding really good food in Barcelona. We probably couldn't afford it anyway because we were students. And on our way to the Barcelona Cathedral, we got completely and utterly lost. We had a map, didn't help. So we were just walking and walking, trying to find it, and we found an outdoor market instead. And that was where we found the food. They had amazing food. There were fresh juices in every single flavor you could imagine. So we ended up getting some vegetables too after we drank down our juice. We got vegetables and we got some fresh meat from the local butcher. And we decided to cook all the rest of our meals while we were in Barcelona. We were the envy of the hostel after that. We got to be known as the chefs of the hostel because all of the other students would walk by and smell what we were cooking and instantly become jealous. My second experience was when I was visiting the south of France with my family. We were kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it was beautiful. There were vineyards right outside of our window as far as the eye could see. There wasn't much to do there except for going on bike rides and going wine tasting. So we decided to take the best of both worlds, and we rented bikes to go wine tasting. We were given a hand-drawn map with little stars on it indicating 3 or 4 local wineries, and we set off on our bikes. And we biked and biked and biked for over an hour and realized we were hopelessly lost, and those stars didn't mean anything because that map was completely wrong. Or we were reading it wrong, who knows. And then the rain started. It was a beautiful day up until then, and then it was a downpour like you see in movies. And we were soaked to the bone. We had to finally seek refuge on a church porch until the rain let up. And when it finally did and there was a break, we quickly got on our bikes and started biking again. We were still lost, but we finally found a winery. Not one from our map, but just one that we happened upon. Now I can't tell you if that winery was any better than the other ones we were supposed to go to, but in that moment when I was soaked to the bone, it was like heaven, and I would go back in a heartbeat. My third example is from when I was in Dublin. I went to Dublin with a friend of mine from Australia. She was also studying abroad in Wales, but was about ready to go home after her semester and wanted one last trip. Again, we were poor students, so we traveled all night because that's the cheapest time to travel. We got to Dublin on about 2 hours of sleep and decided to explore the city because we had a limited time there. We couldn't make it through the whole day, so we went back, took a nap, and decided later that night to go out and find a temple bar, which we thought was just a really cool bar that people went to. We were wrong about that part. We wandered around for hours. We stopped in a couple of places, had some drinks, and still couldn't find it. So we finally approached a taxi driver and asked, "Where is Temple Bar?" And he looks at us and goes, "You're in it." What? Turns out it's a cultural district, not an actual bar. So we'd been wandering around in Temple Bar for hours. We hit up a conversation with this taxi driver, and he really liked us, so he handed my friend something as he was about to leave with his fare and said, "You guys are nice, I hope you have fun." He pulls off, drives into the night. She opens her hand, and in it lies an illicit substance. And my mom always told me not to take candy from strangers. She never quite said anything about drugs, but I assumed it was the same thing. So we took it, tossed it into the river, and called it a night. And we will never forget that taxi driver. So those were my experiences. Not all my experiences of getting lost were interesting, and frankly, some of them were actually very scary. But I've learned that no matter what, I'm going to get lost, so I embrace it now. And fellow Toastmasters, with the utmost respect, get lost. You never know what you might find along the way. Thank you.